Hotep to the family, Ashe to the ancestors. We're going to get into a little debunking today. I believe today about to be my last time debunking this evolution theory. As you know before, I don't trust it. I don't believe it. I think that it's only made to, how can I say, disrespect and demean the black man. Basically trying to validate why they called us monkeys back then in Darwin's age. But, you know, it's that plus me wanting people to know the truth, because people preaching this stuff to people, I'm sorry if I use that term, but I think that it should be disputed every time somebody is bringing this to another black person. I feel like if people really studied evolution, they wouldn't believe in it. It's too many missing links. It's so many things that's showing that we didn't like. Where's the links that shows that you changed from this, you changed to that, you changed to that? If you really look at the evolutionary theory, they never found any complete bones. Everything is basically a model of a piece of something that they found and basically said, okay, this is what it looks like. You can't do that. You can't say something looks like something when you have no evidence of what that thing looks like. So, you know, we're going to get into this today. The reason why I got this right here on my page is because this is a biochemist. This man went to college. He got his doctorate or whatever degree that he got. And some people only respect references. So I'm kind of like that too. So I would like to bring references. So you could go look this up yourself and not just say, oh, he told me this, so I just got to believe it. No. I want you to think for yourself, because if you're watching this, most likely you're grown. And if you're watching this, most likely you're conscious. Or you're just a person that want to know new things and study new things. So, you know, I brought you somebody that has a background behind this. If my background doesn't validate it. Because I've been doing this since I was 8 years old. I remember my mom put a book called The Great Controversy in my hand. And I went crazy. Teaching me about signs, symbols, all of this I've been knew since I was a kid. And then she left me to gain knowledge for myself. She always gave me the opportunity to think for myself, no matter what she believed. She let me figure it out for myself. And that's what I want other people to do. But I've been doing this since I was 8 years old. Starting with reading the whole Bible, then the Great Controversy. Then we graduated up to Aristotle, Plato, Socrates, and reading broad history from Alexander the Great to Constantine to the Zulu tribe. I've been studying this all the way up to the Dogon tribe, Kemet, everything. I've been here since I was a kid. There was a time where I was a Christian and I used to cry and beg for a sign or something from Jesus. Even though I never got one, I would beg and cry, pray, and nothing never happened. So I kept searching. And here I am right now, still searching, still reading, still looking for information. which you should be doing too. Let's get into this knowledge though. This is a man named Franklin M. Harold. He is a professor emeritus of biochemistry, and he got it at the Colorado State University. You want your reference? There you go. This is his account on the Darwin theory. We should reject, as a matter of principle, the substitution of intelligent design for the dialogue of chance and necessity. We must concede that there are presently no detailed Darwinian accounts of the evolution of the biochemical or cellular system, only a variety of wishful speculations. That's basically telling you we haven't found nothing. And this was in 2001 when he wrote this. He said we have not found anything that validates evolution. Because if you think about with evolution, which should jog your mind right then and there and put a cloud over your head, you got to think about once, and you could tell this through the tectonic plates in the equator, in the land structure, in the land shaping. We got planes now to take picture of everything. You got to think about this. So we can kind of all agree that at one point of time that this whole landmass that's broken up today into these continents was all one at one time. We can also say that people did migrate out of Africa. But when you get to the point of evolution, you have to think about what evolution means. And evolution means that because that all of these elements combined, made protein, made fats, made everything that coincides with a human and other living things. And it all merged together because of the environment that it was in. And it adapted to that environment. And it made changes to better itself, such as mutating for that environment to make itself more habitable and make so it could live. It shut off cells that it didn't want. It made new cells. All of this coincided up to us right now. Now the first proof is we don't see evolution happen today. Everybody's still the same. You got carvings on the wall that show people still the same. So that's one proof right there. The second proof is, which should be the first proof, is that if all of these things happen because of it adapting to the environment that it is, that we have, that it was in parts of at that time, and we all know that Earth was one landmass, everything else was water. So if you know that Earth was one landmass and evolution in the cause of the effects of going on, it first started from adaptation to your environment, we could pretty much be sure that the environment was basically the same for all of these countries in all of the landmass that was back at that time. All of the volcanoes and anything that was arose at that specific time were around each other. The tropical temperature was mainly the same. So if cells and all of this stuff grew adapted and changed to live in the environment that it was in at that time, that means what? That all of the cells and all the living things that came out of those cells and nucleus and all of those elements that was all mixing in together that took place, if they're saying in the cause of Darwinian's theory of the evolution theory, if all of those things was in the same place, why is everything still the same? Why isn't everything still the same? You gotta think about it. At one point in time, if a cell destroys itself at that point in time, and that means everything else is building on new cells and getting new information, so everything is still the same. Why do we have different kinds of animals? Why do we have different kind of humans? And then you can't even just think about all that when it pertains just to the earth. You got to think about that when it goes to the universe too. Why isn't everything just one bland thing and everything the same? What happened? Because if it found a place for it to be for it to live in, if it found a place for it to live in, and the cells and the life force that was in it at that time adjusted to that climate and region that it was in, why isn't everything that came from that region the same? That means we shouldn't have lions, we shouldn't have tigers, we shouldn't have zebras, we shouldn't have elephants, giraffes, different shades of human, different eye shapes, different hair texture. Everything will be the same because those cells already adjusted to that climate and that, the atmosphere and everything that was going on at that time. Nothing should have been different if it's in the same place. Because if cells duplicate. That means they are the same. It's basically what he's saying. Now let's look at this evolutionary. It's just real stupid. First, I want you to look at this. This is the timetable that the evolution theory is given to you. You see right around here, 4.6 billion years ago. Now they dated, the oldest rocks on Earth dated on Earth 4.4 billion years ago. 3 billion years ago. That's the oldest fossil cells for creation, what they're saying. Now, mind you, remember, cells duplicate themselves. And not only are they duplicating themselves, they're the exact same cells with the exact same information. 2 billion years ago, evolution of cells with nucleus. What's this? 543 million years ago. This when life comes up. Now, mind you, this is life too. But this is where you can actually see it with the naked eye. And you don't need a you don't need to put it under a microscope. 510 million years ago. Now we got plant life and some sea life. 439 million years ago through 409 million years ago. That's where you got the sea life, the full effect of the sea life. 354 to 320 basically 354 to 300 million years ago. This is when the dinosaurs come into play. Now, mind you, ain't no mammals around. 300 million years ago until what? 65 million years ago. This, matter of fact, this is when the dinosaurs are supposed to die off. Now, remind you, they got dinosaurs dated to 30,000 years ago. Look it up. Now, all while this is happening, remind you, if you look up with evolution, they say that birds are what happened after this. Birds and whales and sharks and the dolphins. They saying after the dinosaurs, this is when all of that happened. Look it up. This is straight facts. But my question is, why the hell, if there was whales and sharks and stuff at this point in time, why the hell 439 million years ago when sea life was first starting, why didn't the whales be there at that point in time too? They also say that after this is when the tetrapod came up in the 409 through 300 million years ago. Between that time is when the tetrapod shows up. Now, if you don't know what the tetrapod is, they're saying that this is the first creature to come up out of the water and walk on four legs. Some things are so retarded. Hold on. Right here. This is the bones of the tetrapod that these people found. Now, this is the only one. They haven't found any duplicates. They don't know what it is, to be honest with you. Now, if you could look on the tetrapod, you'll see that this is the bones that they found. Around here is the bones that they found also. I believe that's a bone right there. Now, where do you get this is the first four-legged walking creature to come out of the water? Where did you get this from? How do you even know that it had feet or fins? Fish have bones. How do you know this wasn't maybe an alligator? From the shape of the skull right here, it could be a baby alligator that just died. So where is you getting the first sea creature? And then where is the through that the evolution through that when it changes from a fish and grows the legs? In order for something to take place, in order for you to be right, you have to show every stage. You can't just show one specific creature that nobody knows about and expect for everybody to believe a whole theory. This is the problem with evolution. Another problem with evolution: a selective sweep. I'm pretty sure some of you evolutionary theorists know this. I'm pretty sure you know what a selective sweep is. A selective sweep is when they check for the mutations of evolution. This is to validate evolution. And they check and see the variations over the time of humans that has changed, so they can see whether or not evolution is still happening at this point in time and we are evolving. A selective sweep is a reduction or elimination of variation among the nucleotides in the neighboring DNA of mutation as the result of recent and strong positive natural selection. Now remember, evolution is built off of natural selections. Reproduction on its own. They're saying that it just came into being, and what arose is us. A selective sweep can occur when a new mutation, that means change in your body, your face, your nostrils, your legs, your height, and all of that. A selective sweep can occur when a new mutation occurs that increases the fitness of the carrier relative to other members of the population. Natural selection will favor individuals that have a higher fitness, and with time, the newly mutated variant will increase in frequency relative to other alleles, or whatever it is. As its prevalence increases, neutral and nearly neutral genetic variation linked to the new mutations will also become more prevalent. This phenomenon is called genetic hitchhiking. A strong selective sweep results in a region of the genome where the positively selected haplotype, the mutated allele, is its neighbors, is essentially the only one that exists in the population, resulting in a large reduction of the total genetic variation in that chromosome region. Well, let's see what the evolutionary theory did when they did their selective sweep. Some evolutionary researchers went looking for classic sweeps in humans and reported their findings in the journal. To evaluate the importance of classic sweeps in shaping human diversity, we analyzed resequencing data for 179 human genomes from 4 populations. In humans, the effects of sweeps are expected to persist for approximately 10,000 generations, or about 250,000 years. That means something has to change from a skeleton 250,000 years ago, and it has to show the change in us at this point of time. That means something about that has to be different. And if you really know, and if you are an evolution theorist, you already know that they have pushed back the date for modern humans. That means they have found humans that's over 250,000 years old at this point in time. And that means that there is no difference in us. Evolutionists had identified more than 2,000 genes as the potential targets of positive selection in the human genome, and they expected that diversity patterns in about 10% of the human genome had been affected by linkage to recent sweeps. Exactly what I was just telling you. Something has to change. So what did they find? In contrast to expectation, their tests detected nothing, but they could not quite bring themselves to say it. They said there was a paucity of classic sweeps revealed by our findings. Sweeps were too infrequent within the past 250,000 years to have discernible effects on genomic diversity. Classic sweeps were not a dominant mode of human adaptation over the past 250,000 years. And you see the references. Go look it up. This is what they said. But the problem with it is, How can you give us something and then say, okay, if it happened over, if you will see some type of difference in over 250,000 years, you should, if you can say that and then turn right back around and say, oh, no, 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 it ain't happening. How do we supposed to know that anything that you saying that you really know? If you're still finding evidence to this day that contradicts everything that you have brought out. You told us 250,000 years. We didn't tell you that. Evolutionary theorists also do tests with animals, rats, cats, fruit flies. It looks for, excuse me. This is talking about, even though it got the collie name, it's talking about the cells inside of fruit flies. They ran a test on fruit flies because they mutate the fastest and change to adults the fastest. Now, if y'all so good at this, if y'all so knowledgeable about evolution theories, why haven't you never brought this information out? It looks for genetic changes in 12 initially identical populations of Escherichia coli bacteria that have been adapting to conditions in their flasks for over 60,000 generations. You remember they said for the humans it take 10,000. I have simplified a report by Scott Wynot, and trust you can go, no matter how stupid his name sound, you could go look him up. This is straight facts. Who studied 26 peer-reviewed scientific articles authored by Dr. Linsky, who won a Nobel Peace Prize. Look him up. With other published between 1991 and when? 2012. This is very, very recent. These papers represent the major genetic findings from 21 years of the experiment. 1. There was an insertion mutation that inhibited transcription of DNA involved in cell wall synthesis. There was an insertion mutation in the regulatory region that encodes 2 proteins involved with cell wall synthesis. This may have led to larger cells. A mutation in a gene led to a defect in DNA repair. An insertion mutation may have knocked out a gene involved in programmed cell death in response to stress. Now, if you could understand what this is basically saying, these defects are not helping these fruit flies. It's ruining them. There was another mutation in his gene involved in a response to stress, disrupting its function. There was a mutation in the gene that encodes an enzyme that loosens DNA coils, leading to an increase in DNA supercoiling. There was an insertion mutation in a gene that represses the production of nicotinamide adenine, whatever it is, NAD, a molecule that participates in many metabolic reactions, some affected longevity. This might allow more NAD production. The researchers noted an insertion mutation that they think inactivated a gene, resulting in greater glucose uptake. Glucose is a limited energy source in the experiment. Deletion mutations cause the loss of the ability to catabolize the ribose, an energy source that is not available in the experiment. There was a mutation in a gene regulating transport of the sugar maltose, an energy source that is not present in the experiment. Now remind you, don't just say because, oh, them fruit flies, this ain't, no. If everything came from everything, it all works the same. You're saying that. The evolution people are saying that. They're saying that we all came from the same cells. That we all came from the same organisms. So apparently, with life force and things that's inside of us, it has to react some way similar. But if you can look here, you'll see nothing but defects and ruining. Not a mutation for better, but a mutation for worse. It's taking everything, all the nutrients and things that the cells have to fight off anything, and it's taking it and ruining it. After about 30,000 generations, the E. coli in one of the 12 isolated populations begin to utilize an energy source, citrate, that they normally cannot use in the presence of oxygen. E. coli already have the ability to transport and metabolize citrate where there is no oxygen, but they do not produce an appropriate transport protein for an environment with oxygen. That means they already had this ability inside of them, but because of the situation that they was in, they had to use it. Their bodies had to, it was already there. In E. coli DNA, the gene for the citrate transporter that works without oxygen is directly upstream from genes for proteins with promoters that are active in the presence of oxygen. That means it's already there for the oxygen, but it doesn't have to overexert and use itself to be able to produce longer. If you really understood what this means, then you wouldn't even follow evolution. Come on, man, let's be honest here. A replication of the region happened to put the transporter gene next to one of these promoters so it can now be expressed in the presence of oxygen. What the fruit flies had, what happened, even though they thought it was a mutation, oh my God, they already had this inside of them. Natural selection doesn't work with something that's already there. Come on, let's be. Natural selection just happens. So how can you base fact off of something that's fiction when you have no proof? How can you use a certain thing to validate something when it goes against everything that you're saying? Come on, let's be honest here, man. Come on. There is much variation in bacteria. There are many mutations. In fact, evolutionists say that smaller organisms have a faster mutation rate than larger ones, but they never turn into anything new. They always remain bacteria. Fruit flies are much more complex than already complex cells. Bacteria, scientists like to study them because a generation from egg to adult takes only 9 days. In the lab, fruit flies are studied under every conceivable condition. That means they using basically atmospheres and air that they felt was around at the first time of life starting, that created everything that's on this earth. So if you're using everything in every atmosphere, in every climate, in every broad and horizon that you could think inside of your God-given mind. Excuse me, because I don't believe in the sky daddy. But I just want people to understand. If you believe in all of that, come on, man. Let's come on, let's be serious. There is much variation in fruit flies. There are many mutations, but they never turn into anything new. They are always remaining fruit flies. Many years of study of countless generations of bacteria and fruit flies all over the world shows that evolution is not happening today. They tried it with the classic sweeps. Evolution is not happening today. They keep having to push the timetable back on when modern humans came into play. I done showed you where they got footprints that look exactly like a modern human. Hominids, if they existed like they said they did, didn't walk like us. You got to think about it when you coming from the tree to the ground. They're saying that these creatures came from the trees. They was apes. They was tree dwellers eating fruit. And they came down to the ground. They didn't even have this. If they was already there, they couldn't even have the same arch in their feet as modern humans today. But these are dated to be 3.6 million years ago, and they got the arch and steps of a modern human. They didn't drag any feet. They didn't have a crook in their shoulder, however you want a lean, nothing. They walk like modern human beings. So if you gotta keep pushing your date back of when modern humans arrive, who's to say that those bones, if they are in fact different types of humans, how do you know that we wasn't around walking with those things too the whole entire time? You got countless of stories that talk of different types of people being on this earth. And I'm not just talking in as far as like the book of Enoch and all this in the Bible with the Nephilim and all of that. No, you got in history, in Native American tribes and African tribes of different types of human beings being here, but they was around humans. How do you know that they ain't die off? Why is there not a link to any evolution theory that a person may bring up? If the birds came behind the dinosaurs, why don't we have any birds that look like dinosaurs? Where's the dinosaurs with the feathers? Any model that they bring to you concerning evolution is only a model. It's not even real. They don't even have official hominin bones. They only got bits and pieces. I remember the man said that him and his son discovered a cave that was filled with them. But we still don't have no exact replica. Why is everything missing? Because they putting this stuff together. And if it did exist, it still doesn't predate modern humans. They was just around with humans. That don't mean that we came from them. How you know it wasn't wars and they died out? Come on, bruh. Let's be serious. Shit, brother. Conscious image, man. I'm signing out, man. Everybody, man, quit with the bull, bruh. It gets you nowhere. Nowhere at all, man. It's not gonna get you anywhere, brother. Seriously.